boss? What?
2 months.
All right, so Michael Franzese.
Oh, this guy's awesome.
You got it. Excellent.
Okay, fuck the porn star. We're gonna do mob boss first.
Brief intro, and you'll maybe help me with some of the details. So the best story that sums up
We've
everything
watched this
is,
guy before.
in fact, the
Marone.
80s Fortune magazine did
Marone.
a cover story on the 50 biggest, most money-making mob bosses.
Right. Does the mob sell
And
cocaine?
you were, I think, number 18 at the time.
Correct.
And
Damn, dude. Oh, fuck, dude. Bitch made. I can't believe how little. Bro, get your money up, dude. 18th? Not even top 10, dude. Can't even crack top 10. Imagine, dude. Holy shit. Marone, dude. All right, let's go.
There was also a mobster.
He was.
And you had an illustrious career in the mob. And I guess, where should we start? With your childhood, I guess?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, obviously I grew up under that influence. My dad was a very prominent figure during the 1960s especially. He's kind of like the John Gotti of his day.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, he was tremendous amount of publicity, a lot of media attention, major target of law enforcement. It was almost like, I used to think, why did they pick him out of all the people that were around at that point in time? But he really was the kind of media star at that point in time.
Apparently there's stories of him and Marilyn Monroe running around together.
Yeah, well, he revealed that to me a little bit later on after my mother passed away. Because I asked him, I said, Dad, why you? Why did they, have this concentration, fascination with you at the time? Long story short, he said he was dating Marilyn Monroe, and Bobby Kennedy found out about it. And from that point on, Kennedy made my father his target and ordered Hoover to go after him. And, it makes sense. I'll be honest, my dad sometimes, he embellishes things a little bit, but that story makes sense.
And he knows how to keep a secret very well, too.
He does, yes.
Yeah. So as a kid growing up with a father like your dad, how was your childhood different than most people's?
Well, it's a lot different. I mean, back then, law enforcement tactics against organized crime were very different than today. I mean, today everything is very covert, undercover informants, high-tech surveillance. Back then, when a guy was under investigation, they wanted you to know about it. And my dad was under investigation, maybe 7 or 8 different agencies, FBI, IRS, Queen Detective, Brooklyn DA, they were all there. And they would have a car parked around my house 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because he was under constant surveillance. So, I was one of 7 kids, and every time we went anywhere, we had a parade of law enforcement vehicles following us. It was just the way it was. And that was for several years. And so, look, my dad was my hero. He was a great father. I loved him. So I grew up actually hating law enforcement. And I had many little scuffles with them as a kid, and so that was kind of the environment I was in.
And then your plans as you grew up were not to follow in your dad's footsteps. You were actually pre-med, I think.
Yeah, I was a pre-med student. I was an athlete. I had no desire to become a member of his life, mainly because my dad didn't discuss it with me. He didn't talk to me about it. He didn't encourage me, One thing I really respected about him, many things obviously, but he never brought what was going on in the outside world into our house. In the house, we were a family. So he never talked about it. He needed to acknowledge who he was, none of that. So to me, I'm playing ball. If you said to me as a kid, who would I like to emulate, what would I like to be? I wanted to play center field for the New York Yankees. Mickey Mantle was kind of my guy. But so no, I didn't aspire to be in that life. But I was going to be a doctor. My dad wanted me to go to medical school, so that's what I was pursuing. And until he got in some trouble and things changed for me.
What changed your direction?
Well, my dad was indicted several times in the early 60s, 3 serious charges in the state of New York, and he went to trial, beat them all, But then he was indicted in federal court for masterminding a nationwide string of bank robberies. Convicted, sentenced to 50 years in prison. 50. Which was kind of a death sentence for him at that point. He was 50 years old when he went in, so I figured he'd never come out of prison alive. So, at that time, Joe Colombo, he kind of took me under his wing. He had just started the Italian-American Civil Rights League.
And Joe Colombo was the head of the
Joe Colombo was the boss of our family.
One of the big 5 families in
Correct. And we were close. You know, he kind of took me under his wing.
This is a
My
chance
dad and
that
him
you
obviously
can-
were close. My dad was his underboss.
So,
So, you know, I got highly influenced by a lot of my dad's friends saying, Mike, what are you doing going to school? If you don't help your dad out, he's going to die in prison. So, you know, I lost interest in school. Then I was picketing the FBI every day with Colombo in that league. So I was meeting a lot of guys. I was getting, you know, all encouraged that maybe the league would help my dad. So it was kind of a direction change for me, and I went to see him in Leavenworth, and we sat down. I said, Dad, I'm not going to school. If I don't help you out, you're going to die in here. And, you know, we kind of went back and forth because he didn't want that for me.
Mm-hmm.
But he knew my mind was made up. I was pretty headstrong as a kid, and he said, okay, but if you're going to be on the street, I want you on the street the right way. And in his mind, the right way was to become a member of his life. So it was at that point that he proposed me for membership into that life.
And
wow, long 14
so,
months.
so what's the first step? You start doing small.
Yeah, well, he sends word
Parents-
downtown, you know, and he said to me, just do whatever you're told. He knew I had it in me, so otherwise he wouldn't have done that. And so I went about 2 weeks after that visit. A captain in the family took me to see the boss. Now, many people don't know, some people do, that Joe Colombo was assassinated, and it was an attempt on his life. He eventually died from the wounds. A new boss took over. His name was Tom DeBella. Tom's passed on now, and I sat with him. And he said, I got a message from your father. He said, you want to become a member of our life. Is that true? I said, yes. He said, well, here's the deal. From now on, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're on call to serve this family, the Colombo family. And to show me how serious that was, he said, that means if your mother is sick and dying and you're at her bedside, we call you to service, you leave your mother, you come and serve us. From now on, we're number one in your life before anything and everything. When and if we feel you deserve this privilege, this honor to become a member, we'll let you know. So I was 21, close to 22 years old. I was in like a recruit period where I had to do anything and everything I was told to do to prove myself worthy.
Yeah, you see that?
My chat, I love you.
You see that? The FBI is responsible for creating more criminals, okay? That's why the message here should be don't arrest criminals, because then their sons will turn into criminals instead of becoming, med school students, okay? I'm just saying, I'm not trying to point any fingers here except pointing the fingers at the FBI and holding them accountable and liable for what happened to this young boy, okay? This young man who is gonna fucking go and live a long life as a doctor. Good job, FBI. Okay, I'm being sarcastic. Yeah, more like Federal Bureau of Instigation. Ha, good one, dude. Exactly, though. Good one, but not a joke. It's actually real. That's what they did. That's what they did.
And those include what kind of things?
Well, listen, you know, it could have been something very menial. There's a lot of discipline in that life, a lot of authority. You know, you had a meeting at, 7 o'clock. You weren't there at 6:30. You were late. You could never be late in that life. Drive the boss to a meeting, you know, sit in the car for 5 hours. God forbid you leave, you go get a newspaper, the restroom, he comes out, you're not there, you're in trouble. I know I did that once, paid the price. But, you know, a lot of stuff like that. I mean, you had to show that you could take authority and that you were disciplined and
test
so
your
on
mettle
and so
sometimes,
forth.
right?
Yeah. And then, you know, look, I'm always as honest as I can be about that. You know, the life is very violent. And if you're part of that life, you're part of the violence. And there's no escape. Anybody tells you differently, they're either not being honest with you or they weren't a made member of that life.
Mm. That went on for how many years?
About 2 years, 18 months, 2 years, something like that. I was in this recruit period.
And you were good. Everybody thought you were a good fit. And what happened?
Seems that way, yeah. It was Halloween night, 1975, when I was called into a room with 5 other gentlemen, all recruits. And the interesting thing at that point was that they had an expression just before that period where the books were closed in that life, meaning they weren't bringing in any new members formally. And in the early 70s, they opened up the books, and I was inducted with guys that were waiting 20, 25 years. They were recruits that long, yeah. So it was kind of a mix in there that night, but we all took an oath that night, became sworn, made members of the Colombo family.
How many?
There were 6 of us.
6 of you.
Yeah.
And you were how old?
I was 24.
24. And so, you know, I heard a story of those 6 gentlemen that were inducted. that night. How many of them are still around?
Well, out of the 6 of us, I'm the only one alive.
Yeah.
The other 5 were they all died, and from what I understand, they were all murdered.
Yeah, it's a dangerous, treacherous career.
It's a
Isn't
tough life, no
it?
doubt.
And there was a ceremony involved as well, right?
Yeah,
Tell me about that briefly.
It was a very solemn ceremony, dimly lit room late at night. They wanted you to understand the seriousness of what you were getting involved in. And we walked into a room individually. The boss was seated at the head of like a horseshoe configuration, underboss consigliere to his left and right, and all the captains alongside of them. We had about 15 in our family at that point. Walked down the aisle, stood in front of the boss, held out my hand, takes a knife, cuts my finger, some blood drops on the floor. This is a blood oath. I cupped my hands. He took a picture of a saint, Catholic altar card, put it on my hands, lit it aflame. Didn't hurt, it burned quickly, it was merely symbolic. And he said, tonight, Michael Franzese, you are born again into a new life, into La Cosa Nostra, this thing of ours. Violate what you know about this life, betray your brothers, and you will die and burn in hell like this saint is burning in your hands. And he said, do you accept? Yes, I do.
And then what changes after that happens? You start becoming.
Well, you kind of find your way in that life, and you're either how can I put it? You separate yourself in being in one category or the other, even though we're all capable of doing what we need to do and what we're told to do. But some of us were earners, I would call us, and some of us weren't. And unfortunately, the greater percentage of us were not earners. But in our family at that time, we had 115 made guys that actually took the oath, a lot of more associates, but guys that actually took the oath. Out of the 115, I think 20 of us were real earners.
Some of the brains and some of the brawn.
Yeah. And, the other 95 guys.
Bro, how old is this guy? The mob was the real Sigma grind set, by the way, ultimately, okay? 70? Are you fucking kidding me? Look at how hot he is for 70, dude. I'm gonna join the Mafia now. Oh my fucking God. What are they? Does that come with a side of fucking skin conditioner or whatever the fuck? Is that what happens with the Mafia membership? They give you... Jesus Christ, dude.
Guys that are, getting by, doing some of the heavy
Insane.
work, who's got a gambling issue, who's getting a union job. We tried to take care of them, but, it's just the way it goes. Like anything else, you kind of separate yourself in that life.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of, so what were the first, business endeavors that you were engaged in?
Well, I was fortunate in that I understood early on how to use that life to benefit me in business. But, and I had a head for business, I would say. I was very aggressive on the street, brought some new things into the family. But I really started out, my dad had me working in an auto body shop when he was home, just helping some guys. So I started out in the car business. That turned into me owning 2 dealerships at that time. I built it up. I had a used car lot, I had a leasing company, I had body shops. So I had a pretty big business that I kind of grew in a short period of time. And then, along with that life, you start to, people come your way and they offer you deals and, you accept or you reject depending upon the quality of what's going on. And before you know it, I had several different interests. I had my own nightclubs, I had restaurants, I had, again, a leasing company. I ended up with a production company in California. So I had a bunch of different things going on and was able to turn things into successful operations.
That's great. And then eventually you hooked into something that was what I guess has been described as the most lucrative thing the mob has ever been involved in since Al Capone, right?
Yeah, it was actually the gas business. And, very long story short, I got approached by someone at a small wholesale operation selling gas out in Long Island. And there was 2 guys from another family trying to extort him, shake him down, and he came to me for help. I was kind of the guy on Long Island. And so I helped him out, and together we devised a scheme to defraud the government out of tax on every gallon of gasoline. And that grew from a very small operation to, at its height, after 8 years, I ran it for about 8 years. We had over 350 stations that we either owned or operated. We had 18 wholesale companies that were licensed to collect the tax on every gallon of gasoline. And we built that up to selling 500 million gallons of gas a month, and we were taking down 20, 30, 40 cents a gallon, depending upon the deal. So, it was very lucrative. We brought in, at times, $7, $8, $10 million a week.
A week.
It was that big, yeah. It was a big operation.
Yeah,
I had
yeah,
brought
yeah.
the Russians in from Brighton Beach, and It was, it was described as the most lucrative operation since the days of Prohibition, and I saw it that way also.
And that made you a star amongst your cohorts, right?
When you're making that kind of money is power in that life, and, I got the attention of some of the other families, and so I made, relationships, which is important in that life, to have allies in the other families. So tried to spread some of the wealth around and, make people happy, and money buys loyalty in that regard. So, I started to make a name for myself.
That's great. One of the funniest little stories I heard you share once was, is it Big Vinny that helped get this off the ground, and he came into the box one day?
Yeah,
He was a butcher, right?
Vinny was a butcher, and he was one of my guys, trusted guy, and a big, ominous-looking guy, big scar across the top of his head, a butcher. And so I had put him with this guy, Larry, that came to me with this whole proposal for gas. And after 2 weeks in the operation, he comes to my house with he used to bring me meat every Saturday. And now he's carrying a big box. And I said, what are we having, a party? I don't know. What am I going to do with all this meat? Brings it in the kitchen, puts it on the table, and he says, it ain't meat, boss. He said, it's the first week's take in a gas station. Opens it up, $320,000. Smelled like gasoline, smelled up the whole kitchen, but I didn't care at that point. But we grew that 320 into, like I said, close to $10 million a week.
Wow. And so at some point, I'm sure the Colombo boss at the time was
Persico.
Persico.
Omar Persico, yeah.
And he, what was his reaction to this?
Well, when I knew what I had, you got to be very, very careful in that life. If too many people get involved, everything goes up in smoke. It happens all the time. So when I went to him, I told him, I said, Junior, called him Junior. I said, look, I'm going to show you more money than you ever saw in your life. And he looked at me right away. It's not drugs. We don't do drugs. I said, it's not drugs. I hate drugs. Personally, I hate drugs. I had it in my family. I said, it's gas. I said, you're not going to understand it. I said, but I got this operation under control. Nobody else is going to be at risk. It's me, my guys, my crew. But I'll make you wealthy. But here's the deal. Every time we have a sit down, an argument with another family, I got to win. Don't play politics. Let's not spread this around, because as soon as we do, it'll get out of control and we'll blow it. And he said, show me. And I did. And I never lost an argument. I mean, I made him wealthy, and he repaid me by being loyal in that regard.
How many years did this last?
Close to 8 years, from 78, right through 85 when I went to prison.
And what kind of lifestyle did that afford you? You had
Well, I had my own jet plane. I had a Lear 25A. I had a Bell helicopter.
Wow, 11 months, nearly
I
a year
built
with this
a
wonderful
8,000 square foot
community.
house in
Yeah,
Long
you can
Island. I
donate.
had a
You
house
can
in
donate.
Florida. I had a
Get
house in Marina Del Rey,
check that
California.
Fano cap.
So I mean, I had all those little perks. But honestly, the plane and the helicopter are really business. I mean, I use them, quite extensively. But I enjoyed the fruits of having that kind of money.
I'm sure you're meeting all kinds of dignitaries and celebrities, and
Yeah.
you're running in a circle that's very, very, very different, right?
Yeah. I mean, I had, associations with people that had, good celebrity connections, so got involved with that to a great degree, and, life was good.
Yeah.
Of course, on the other side, I'm fighting the government every day of my life.
Oh, yeah. So at some point, during this heyday of the gas business that you were involved in, somebody got suspicious that you were kind of keeping more of the money than you should have been for yourself, and pulled you into a meeting?
Yeah, when you're making that kind of money, people, they're watching you. It's kind of a double-edged sword. And, I was a younger guy. I had been appointed a captain. They made me a capo regime. Persico did. And I had a big crew. I had all the Russians that were very loyal to me, making a tremendous amount of money.
And you were still young.
Yeah, I was in my 20s, late 20s.
Wow.
And, there was a publication, I think it was Newsday, I'm not positive, I don't remember now, but wrote a story that I was becoming powerful enough to break away from the Colombos and start my own family. It was fiction. It had no truth to it whatsoever, but that was one reporter's take on it. So, that gets into people's heads. People start to wonder. I think Persico got a little bit, suspicious of that, so started to send some people around to talk to my Russian connections and so on and so forth. So, I had to watch myself at that point, and I had no interest in taking over a family. As a matter of fact, I'll be honest with you, I hated going down to the social clubs and being stuck in Brooklyn when I can get on my plane and go to Florida, California.
Okay, dude. How much of this was just ripped straight, or how much did Sopranos rip this straight up to make The Sopranos? That's one. And two, this guy literally is just he could have easily been like an evangelical pastor. You know what I mean? Like he would have been a successful business owner. That's just what the mafia is just a successful business, an enterprise that is just not legal. I can totally see why people justify this shit in their own heads.
And, enjoy the good life. That's what I was into. So, and you're a captain in that family, it's a lot of work. Because you got guys under you that are constantly getting in trouble, constantly needing you. You got to sit down. You got to be arguing all the time. I enjoyed the life, and I was as much a part of it as anybody, but I also liked the good life. So, I had things that people used to say to me, I used to go out to California a lot here, and people used to tell me, how is it out there? And I didn't want anybody to follow me. So I said, it's horrible, those people, it's terrible. You don't ever want to go out there. So I didn't want anybody coming out. Meanwhile, I loved it, right? Same with Florida, but, so I had to watch myself, and, I was on my guard, and I knew it. So, I was careful.
Yeah. And then how did it finally come to an end?
How did I come to an end?
No, you got into trouble with the government, right?
Well, I
Black Lives Matter protest riot in Manhattan caused $100,000 in damage. Says Michael Franzese, is this the America we want to live in? This is what the far left progressive socialist agenda will bring to your city, your town, your business, your fucking neighborhood. The choice is clear in November. Which America will you choose?
I
became a major target of law enforcement. I
would imagine the government is like, what the hell is going on with?
Yeah,
something's not.
I total it up. I had 7 indictments. That's almost a record. In that life, usually you get 1 or 2 and you're gone. But I had 7 and 2 federal racketeering cases.
Rudy Giuliani was after you, right?
Giuliani indicted me on a big case in '84. I was probably the first major mob guy he indicted under the RICO statute. Mm-hmm. And I was lead defendant. I had 15 co-defendants. And I was on trial for several months. If I lose that case, I'm gone.
Yeah.
I would have been away for 50, 100 years.
And at that point, they were putting guys away for...
I'm watching these guys going to trial, getting convicted, and getting 100 years, 200 years. I said, man, I'm the youngest out of all of these guys. They're going to give me 500 years if I lose this case. So, I prepared day and night for the Giuliani case. And
how much money did you spend on lawyers?
In all total, probably about $2.5 million. Between all the cases, I took care of some of my co-defendants and investigators, and then forget the hours that I lost just, preparing. But I spent a lot of money, but it was worth it. I won the case. Yeah. I was acquitted, so got my freedom.
Yeah. At
least at that point.
You escaped the government several times, right?
Yeah, I beat him 5 times.
Wow.
Yeah, I went to trial 3 times. 4th time was dismissed, and Giuliani was acquitted. I had a pretty good string.
Hey, yo, fuck him. Fuck Giuliani.
You're also involved in sports gambling as well? Is that right?
Well, if you're in that life, you're into gambling in some way. Now, I didn't have that habit. I used to gamble a little bit on sports. I played the numbers every day. 527, my birthday, won a few times. But we had bookmakers that answered to me, and they would gambling. Athletes were gambling with them, all the time. All the major sports teams, a lot of the college kids, just happened.
Yeah. Michael Jordan was apparently involved in some mess with the...
Well, look, it was on the street. Everybody knew Michael was. I only use the word degenerate in terms of his gambling, not in terms of him personally. But yeah, he was hard. It's still today. Everybody knows it. He's not shy about it. Yeah, but he was gambling with bookmakers that that we were aware of it.
Yeah.
It was yelling book all the fucking time over here.
So what happens after But you actually did do some prison time, right?
Yeah, what happened after I beat the Giuliani case, that was in the Southern District of New York, and then the Eastern District of New York was preparing this whole gasoline tax RICO case on me. It was kind of a laundry list of things they indicted me for, but gasoline was one of them. And the guy that introduced me, Larry Rizzo, to the business, and then we created the scheme together, he turned informant.
Oh, geez.
So he was their principal witness
16
against me.
months locally smoked
However,
baby pack.
He testified against me in the Giuliani case, and we destroyed him on the stand. Destroyed him. So the government was leery about him coming in on the second case, which gave me some leverage when I finally negotiated a plea there.
Wow. So a plea got you how many years?
I took a plea eventually to a 10-year prison sentence. I had $15 million in forfeitures and restitution, and I gave up the plane, the helicopter, the whole bit, and went off to do my time. But
Yeah.
you got to understand, at that time when I got 10 years, I negotiated it for months, people were saying, hey, it's the deal of the century.
You got off easy.
Yeah, they would tell me, don't even take your shoes off. You'll be home before you know it, really. But that's how bad it was back then. So
Yeah.
I was very fortunate.
No, I find it very interesting that you have navigated your time with the mob and your life today with. I think it's a there's many people have many different types of intelligence, but there's a wisdom in knowing how to play a certain situation or a certain person you're interacting with to come out on top, to come out unscathed. And compared to, like on that list of Fortune, the 50 mob bosses, I think you're the only one who's still alive, or
Well,
still not in prison.
Well, no. I know 48 of them are dead.
Yeah.
I don't know about the 49th. I heard he's in his 70s. He might have passed away. I know he was doing a long prison stretch. I don't know where he is. So, yeah, I mean, I'm the guy that's walking around free. I mean, it's look,
How does no one try to clap this guy, I wonder?
I always say that list was kind of silly. They
Yeah,
didn't
of
ask
course
for
it
our
is,
tax
yeah.
returns. They'd make a list like that. Sold a lot of magazines.
Yeah.
But, what's not silly even to myself is to think that over the last 33 years, I survived all of these guys. I mean, it makes me realize how fortunate and blessed I am, to know that. But, this whole thing, it was all a negotiation. Life is a negotiation. And when it came to this next case that they were after me on, I knew I had a shot when we defeated their major witness in the Giuliani case. They were devastated. And so I told my lawyer, look, I can't keep fighting these people. Eventually they're going to win, and when they do win, I'm going away forever. I said, I got to try to cut my losses. So in taking that plea, what I really was concerned about, look, I wasn't afraid to do the jail time. I was visiting my father all my whole life. I knew at some point I'd do some prison time. I had 17 or 18 arrests up to that point. But I said, I got to cut my losses. And what was more important to me than anything else was getting immunity from any other crimes. So I knew if I wrapped everything up in that plea deal, I did a few, years inside, I'd come out and have a clean slate. And they gave me immunity for everything except murder, at that time. Unless I became a cooperating witness, then they would have given me immunity for murder, but I wasn't interested in that.
What the fuck? Dude, feds are crazy, bro. Feds are fucking nuts, dude. They're like, hey, even murder, man. Not off the table for you, okay?
So that was the only thing I had to be concerned about, and I wasn't really concerned about it. And so it was really a negotiation to preserve the rest of my life and get these people off my back. That's what it was all about.
So did you have an eye on getting away from a mob life at that point?
I did. A couple of things came into question for me, but I saw that life was in a lot of trouble. I mean, Giuliani, I have to give him credit or blame, whatever way you look at it, for really utilizing the RICO Act. And up until that point, guys weren't becoming informants as much as they were, but nobody wanted to face that kind of time. And I saw the life starting to fall apart because of that. The government had too many weapons. They had the RICO Act, they had the Bail Reform Act, they had the Sentencing Reform Act. Guys were turning snitch left and right.
Yeah. Better surveillance?
What's that?
Better surveillance?
Yeah, better surveillance, and we didn't keep up with the times. And
At the time, the worst thing that the government had that they used against the mob was a 60-second ad break at the top of the hour, especially when it's 8 minutes past the top of the hour, where most people are not even aware that it's coming. Yeah. But of course, one thing you can fucking do over here is, you know, a $5 subscription or a
Don't
fucking
say
Twitch
the
Prime
kids.
subscription, which is fucking free over here. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, you know, there's things you can do. There's things you can do to fucking avoid it. You know, or you can use an ad block. You can use a
Arjan, thanks for the
VPN.
9-month anniversary.
You know, a bunch of things. All right? Well, use the fucking 1 minute ad break now, okay? Yeah.
so I said, this life is in trouble. If you're going to stay here, and I'm a young guy, for me to be arrogant enough to think that over the course of my lifetime, these guys wouldn't catch me in something and put me away forever would have been arrogant on my part.
Yeah, so you knew some hit was going to be had.
Yeah, I mean,
And 10 years is nothing.
Oh, I'm hot.
10 years was, you know, I did 8 on the 10, but it was, you know, it was a blessing.
If you look at everyone else around you, you got off easier than anybody in the history of, of anything.
Absolutely, and didn't have to put anybody in prison.
Yeah.
Didn't go into witness protection program. None of that,
Didn't
which I
make any
wasn't
enemies.
interested in. So,
Yeah.
you know, so everybody said it's unheard of. It's never been done before. I mean, I don't do research on it, but I don't know of anybody else that's been that fortunate. Let's
What
put it
what
that
was
way.
the reaction to other mobsters at the time when you were kind of leaving?
Well, they didn't know it. I mean, I didn't make an announcement.
But at some point you.
Well, yeah,
I do not understand how the fuck he got away. Like, I literally don't.
I'll tell you what happened. When I went into prison, I was in there for a bit, and the associate warden at Terminal Island, it's where I was incarcerated, tells me, you know, Life magazine's doing this huge story on you. They had done a huge story on my dad several years earlier. It was actually the biggest story ever, as far as I know, in Life magazine about my dad. It was like 29 pages with photos and everything else, right? So they said they're doing kind of an anniversary edition on you.
I'm not talking about how the state let him get away with it. I totally understand why the state would give him a slap on the wrist.
I'm back.
You're failing to recognize what I'm saying here. I know why the state gave him a fucking sweetheart plea bargain deal. I don't understand why the fucking Cosa Nostra didn't give him the same kind of retaliation that you get usually when you fucking give the state a sweetheart plea bargain deal. You see what I'm saying?
And he said, the reporter said, if you speak to him, it'll be a better story. So me always trying to negotiate stuff, I said, all right, maybe I get the government off my back a little bit, you know, whatever, get out of here, get some peace. So I sit down with him and I said, you know, I tell him typical mob stuff. There is no mob, you know, I don't know what you're talking about. I married this young girl, she's from California, I moved out, I like the sunny weather. I gave him all that stuff, right? And that was it. I think a couple of weeks later, the warden calls me back to the office and he says, Franzese, do you have a death wish? I said, what are you talking about? You know, and he shows me the article. It was a big double picture, a big article, and across the top, quitting the Mafia. And there's a big picture of me, and I'm in jail with several other mob guys. This guy had me doing everything but testifying.
Nobody leaves them out.
No.
Not
You
that
know,
way.
no.
Not that way.
And then right after that, you know, I get a visit from the government. FBI tells me, hey, word's all over the street from our informants. You're a dead man anyway. You know, cooperate with us. We'll put you in a program. And so this thing started like accidentally. You know, I didn't say I was testifying against anybody, but and they put word out on the street that I was going to testify. They put my name on the witness list of other trials that were going up, you know, so people were seeing that on the Discovery. It was like a wave that I couldn't stop.
Right.
But I did have no intention of going back. So messages came through to me, what's up? I said, look, I'm not going to hurt anybody, but I'm done. Well, that infuriated the wrong people, so including my father. So, I mean, I had a lot of trouble.
Yeah, your dad actually spoke against you. One of the,
You know, I like to clarify that. I mean, obviously, the contract on my life, Persico, very upset when he heard this, and I'm done. Plus, they thought I was going to testify, so, you know, I was told straight out my father went along with the contract. And, you know, and knowing my dad, I believed it. You know, I don't think my dad would have pulled the trigger on me, but
right.
he let it go.
Yeah. But I think it's a testament to your wisdom to navigate negative things like that.
10 months.
There's no
subscriber.
shot, dude. How the fuck? This is what I mean.
Your own father kind of standing against you, and yet finding some way to turn that into something positive.
Yeah.
And your relationship with your dad, who's still alive,
Yes.
just got out of prison recently, right?
My dad's still alive. He's 102 years old.
102.
He was released at the age of 100.
Yeah.
He was the old.
Apparently, what is that, like a gift? The government's like, bro, if you can survive in prison for 50 years and make it to 100, we'll just let you go.
Arjan? Pogo?
He died at 103, apparently.
Oldest inmate in the system.
And I'm sure your relationship with him is great.
It's it's good. It's we kind of see things a little bit differently at this point. But the relationship is good. I love my dad. He loves me. There's a lot of talk out there and all this stuff that I never did anything to hurt my dad. I only tried to help him my whole life. I'm the guy that got him out of prison, and all these times. But, people talk and they like to say certain things and whatever. But my dad and I are close and, I love him. He loves me.
That's great. And he was a big influence.
His dad had a literal Shawshank Redemption moment, dude. He went to jail for 50 years at the age of 50, came out at the age of 100, and literally survived like 3 years and then just fucking died. He's like, I don't know anything outside of prison, dude. This sucks.
Influence in who you are, right?
My dad was a tremendous influence on me. He taught me, all the right things when I was a kid growing up, I believe. I still carry that with me. He helped me navigate through that life. Taught me to be a good listener, to be careful before I speak, out of turn, and things that you need to know in that life that are very important. Because guys that shut off the mouth.
Bro, he hit the soft level cap at 100. It gets significantly harder to grind after that. It's like, especially like with Destiny 2, or with Destiny 1 rather, the level cap, you can only level up beyond it with items, and they're random. Like, you can't find it. And no one's playing it at this point, so he just kind of gave up.
I wanted to be tough guys. They're all gone. You don't keep somebody that around. When you got to worry about somebody doing so, you let them go. Get rid of them. And that's what happened. I saw that happen many times in that life.
Yeah. Tell me about some of the personalities. I'm sure you came across quite a few real characters. Gotti, for example.
Yeah, I was friendly with John. We weren't best of friends. I had different crews and all of that.
But
I had my run-ins with him, with Gotti. Socially, he was great. I used to meet him in some clubs, by chance or on purpose, and we'd have a drink and have fun. He was great. He was always had to be like the center of attention. He was the magnet, everybody, because the way he dressed and the way he carried himself. But it was a lot of fun. Business, very tough. Very, very tough. Because, he had the attitude, I'm John Gotti and nobody's going to beat me. And so when you're in a deal with him, whether it be purposely or by chance, you had to know how to navigate your way through. So he thinks he got what he wants, but actually you get what you want.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it, because John doesn't know it, but he taught me that just in my having to deal with him, and getting my way at the end.
Yeah. Well, you can be headstrong or you can be wise, and one gets you further.
You get the credit, I'll take the money.
Yeah.
It's that way.
Exactly. Who else, what other mob figures were particularly interesting to deal with?
Well, I enjoyed Tony Salerno. Fat Tony Salerno. He was the boss of the Genovese family. He was a character, right out of Central Casting. But a good guy. I liked him. I had a couple of meetings with him and enjoyed him very much, in the gas business especially. He knew I was making money, and he asked me for a couple of things, and I was able to help him. Paul Castellano I met under not great circumstances. My first real run-in with a guy was him, and he wasn't one of my favorite guys, let's put it that way. Persico, obviously, I knew. I knew a lot of guys. I got around. I knew the Chin, fairly well. Chin Gigante,
The Chin.
He really was the most powerful guy on the street at that point in time. He really was. He did his thing, walking up and down Houston Street in the bathrobe and all of that. But very interesting. He didn't care who you were. He didn't care. You could be the boss of another family. He didn't care. If he didn't want to meet you or talk to you, he wouldn't. And the fact that he met with me, you know, on a few occasions
6 months, Jen.
and
Hope
treated me
you
that
have a
way
wonderful
was
rest of
nice.
your
You know.
day,
He
Hasan.
respected my father a lot too. My father was away, but he respected him. So, you know, so I met the good guys, the top guys at the time, and I met a lot of the other guys, you know, because you're in the gas business, everybody wanted a piece of it. Everybody. So I was constantly sitting down and keeping people away and arguing, and it was a lot of work, but it was profitable. So you did the work.
Right.
They used to call him Hasan the fucking head. Also known as the body. Because he got a big body Hasanti.
And Giuliani, how's it? Did you have a lot of interactions with Rudy Giuliani?
No, not a lot, but you know, day of my arraignment, he told me if he convicted me, he's going to give me 100 years, double what my father got. And I said, hey, bring it on, Rudy. Beat you already 4 times. Let's go for round 5. And fortunately, I beat him. But you know, Rudy said some nice things about me when it was out on the street that, you know, I was transforming my life and I was not going back. And everybody was saying Franzese is full of it on law enforcement side. He'll never give this up. He's too much a part of it. It's another scam he's pulling. And Giuliani said, you know what, Michael is a fairly intelligent guy and he knows this life is in trouble. And I think he might be sincere in what he's saying. He made that comment, so it was nice.
It's interesting. I think it takes intelligence to recognize intelligence sometimes.
Well, look, he...
Yeah, dude, when you're fucking talking about all the kind things that Rudy Giuliani said to you and that you're intelligent, and then it's fucking, you know, it turns out it's Rudy fucking Giuliani. I don't know. Forget about it.
Like I said, you want to give him the credit of the blame, but, you know, he did a lot as far as hurting my former life. And
One of the main things keeping him alive is that he never put anybody in prison, even with a contract on his life. He never made any mortal enemies by ratting people out. And that has lessened the desire to kill him, but he's got a big fucking mouth, right? I mean, he's constantly fucking talking over here. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't seem like he's such a kind guy. He's not a nice fucking guy, you know? I don't know if he didn't fucking snitch or not. Forget about it.
I will say this. I think he was a terrific mayor. I'll tell you a story. You know, I did my 5 years. I was out 13 months, violated my parole. So they picked me up and they're bringing me back to New York. I was out in California because I had to go in front of the judge. You know, and the marshals were transporting.
Dude, this guy's life is a 100% like carbon copy of Sopranos. I'm sorry, literally, like even the character names are the same, dude. That's crazy. I do believe him when he says, like, I think David Chase probably listened to me. That guy was worth $20 billion in the 80s. Holy shit, dude. The Mafia is so profitable.
Me, and I said, look, what time do we got to be at court? He said, like 2 o'clock. It was early in the morning. We got off the plane. I said, well, do me a favor. I haven't been here for a while. Let's drive around Manhattan. I want to see what's going on. I said that, and I want Dunkin' Donuts. I haven't had that in a while, too. So the marshals were good guys. So we start driving around. We go to Manhattan, and I was shocked to see Times Square.
Yeah.
I grew up, Times Square was, you know, a pit. It was horrible.
You wouldn't walk it.
No, and Giuliani totally transformed it. So, you know, he did a lot of good things as mayor, and of course 9/11, he gets, you know, both sides, but I think he did a good job, so give him credit.
So, I mean, what are the qualities that a person needs to exist in that life? I mean, there's loyalty, there's integrity, and all that, but it seems like very often it's the case where deceit and treachery come into the picture.
You know, it's a very treacherous life,
Yeah.
and the reason I say that, because look, I spent a lot of time there, over 20 years. I mean, you know, I seen guys die for the wrong reasons. Jealousy comes into effect. There's a lot of politics. Money is everything. Money and power is everything in that life, and you got to know how to really navigate both.
Does he ever talk about the other mob guy who got murdered by fucking QAnon freak?
And if you're making money and you have power, you got to know, you got to be careful. You know, you don't want to offend the wrong people. I mean, look, the Gotti Castellano thing was a perfect example. In our family, you know, Little Vic Arena, you know, he went out against Persico. We had a big war at that time. So you got to be very careful in there. You got to be careful, you know, just to do the right thing with the right people, or to be on your guard all the time.
All you buy.
And you know, again, I saw a lot of people die for the wrong reason. You know, one of the horrors in that life, you make a mistake, your best friend walks you into a room, you don't walk out again. And unfortunately, I've witnessed that. And, you know, I had somebody very close to me that I believe was killed for the wrong reasons, more to give me a message than to anything else. And that was tough for me to get over. I mean, it really was. Because things, look, you know, I'm not throwing bouquets at myself, and I'm no angel by any means. But, you know, I saw two types of guys in that life. There were guys there that I would call them stone killers. They enjoyed it. You know, hey, give me the contract. I'm ready to go. I love it. I do. Now, and they did it. They did their job. You know, for me, when I was asked or ordered to do something, it made me uncomfortable. And don't get me wrong. I never let anybody see that. And, you know, I did what I had to do and did it. And, you know, in my case, it was kind of like stepping outside of myself, doing what I had to do and getting right back. Because I wasn't going to let anybody talk about me, and I was going to make sure I did what I was told to do, follow the orders. But I think there really was those two type of guys. I'm so fucking hot right now. Those two type of personalities. And I'll tell you this, the guys that were ready to kill, they don't last. They don't last because people say, I'm not going to worry about this guy. He's too quick with the trigger. You know, one thing that I learned, if you're a captain in that family, you know, and I want to clear this up too, murder was taken very seriously in that life. We weren't random killers. We didn't do drive-by shootings. We weren't allowed to do that stuff. We didn't do it. Any murder in that life had to be sanctioned by the boss. That was it. Had to be sanctioned by the boss. There was discussion about it. Some people were for it, some people were against it, and then a ruling was made. And, you know, I always thought about this. I said, look, this life is like a wheel. It turns around. You know, one day, if I'm sitting there, you know, giving a vote, deciding the fate of somebody, I want to be hesitant. I'm not going to be the one to say right away, let's do this or let's do that, or you know, put a death warrant on this guy, because it might be me sitting there one day. It might be me that they're deciding upon one day, and I want to be known to be the guy that said, let's really discuss this. Let's wait. Let's see. And, you know, I think in the end that served me well. Because I had an experience where I was brought into a room one night. I didn't know if I was going to walk out. An experience that prepared me for walking away later on, because honestly, I learned through that experience that I could face death.
Because they were suspicious that you were up to...
Yeah. I mean, I was called into a room under some very bad circumstances, and the way the setup was...
What was the story?
You know, look, making a lot of money in the gas business, you know, and... word was getting out, and like I said, my boss was going after finding some people, seeing if I was turning in enough money and all this kind of stuff. I'm turning in millions, you know. Story came out that I was making billions. You know, my attitude would have been, well, so what? He's taking all the risk, he's doing this, he's making me wealthy. What do I care? But it's not like that with everybody. So, you know, I think, you know, when I look at it, they wanted to put a scare into me. Maybe it was serious, more than I thought afterwards. I don't know.
But you know, from experience, walking into a room like that.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you something. It was about a 30-yard walk from the car that I get out of to the basement of apartment or room. It was a private house, but we had to go into the basement, down the steps. And it was late at night. It was a summer night. I can tell you this. The way it lined up, I said, I'm dead. I'm not walking out of here. When I walk down that path, as I think about it now,
I have seen Larry Lawton.
I can hear the crickets chirping. And I can almost smell the night air, the flowers. My senses got so acute at that point. And you know,
I have seen Larry Lawton chat.
To watch you ban people.
I've seen most of his videos.
I've said this before, and people said to me, well, why didn't you cut and run? And I said, you know, I don't know. I mean, it was just robotic. I said, hey, if this is it, this is it. But I will tell you this, you know, my heart was beating out of my chest. And when that door opened, I don't know how I didn't just cave in. Because I thought, you know, I know the setup. Guys stand up, boom, you're done. It's over with. And, but it taught me later on that I could face death. So when I did walk away and I knew that I'd have that trouble, I said, hey, you know what? They're not going to walk me into a room. They're going to have to come and get me. And I knew what to do to change my lifestyle around, so I didn't make it easy for anybody. Because there was, you know, a couple of attempts. I mean, I know that for a fact.
After you left?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, really?
There was a crew that was sent out to California, and the FBI intercepted it. And they actually came to my house and they said, if you don't leave, you're gonna be dead by Sunday. That's the deal. Because fortunately, at that time, they had a lot of informants on the street. And my wife was a wreck. They told her too, and I got mad at them. And they said, well, we wanted to make sure that you left. You know, and whether they like you or not, if you have a death threat on you, they're obligated to come and tell you. So we had to pick up and move and leave for a couple of days, and until I knew it was over with. So I had a couple of, you know, calls like that. But
then when you come back to your house, you're you're being careful to walk.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, you don't create patterns in your life. You don't walk your dog at the same time. You don't go to the same restaurant. You don't hang out in places where you know other guys hang out, want to be a hero. So, you know, I was very disciplined because I knew I had to be. But, you know, it was tough, you know, and like I said, a lot of treachery in that life that you got to watch. And, you know, look, I'm as honest as I can be about the life. And I've told people this, that life is an evil lifestyle, just like the gang life. You know, it's evil. Yeah. Now, I'm not calling the guys evil. I was one of them. I just happen to be very fortunate, very blessed. But the lifestyle is evil because I don't know any family of any member of that life, and this includes gangbangers that I went to prison with, that hasn't been totally devastated. I mean devastated, including my own, and not my wife and kids, but my mother, father, brothers.
I hope you guys learned how to be a good mob boss after this video, because that was basically what I was trying to do here, is teach you how to instill in you important lessons of how to be a good mob boss.
The family is destroyed. I don't even know how I came out of there with a you know, at least somewhat sane.
How is he more comfortable with this guy than that Pimp Sharp? Dude, I was just thinking that, dude.
Shout out to Lexi, Elsa, and all
like when he was talking to the pimp, he was so uncomfortable. Like it felt like he was incredibly uncomfortable when talking to the pimp. But here and now, he's just like even with this guy, he's just like, you know, yeah, tell me more. It seems like you were, you know, how was your relationship with your father?
People question that, but
your story is incredible.
I mean,
you survived and thrived.
You know, so any lifestyle that does that to families has to be evil, and that's the bottom line. I mean, you got to stay away from it. That's what I tell these gangbangers. You guys are out of your mind.
And were these kind of thoughts in your head what helped you kind of change your ways and decide to leave, or were there other factors?
You know, leaving that life was one of the, if not the most difficult decision I ever made, because look, I took the oath very seriously. I'm my father's son. I love my dad. I would go to sleep at night leaving the life, wake up going back in. I mean, I was so torn. It was so difficult emotionally for me, because I didn't want to be known as a guy that betrayed an oath, whether it was right or wrong. Because look, I had a very idealistic view of that life when I came in. I was gung-ho. I'm going to be part of something my father's part of, you know, this brotherhood among men. It was exhilarating, and I took it extremely seriously. So leaving that life was very, very difficult. It really was. I mean, sometimes, you know, even at a moment, I mean, I feel it today every once in a while.
But the government's becoming more effective played a part in all this as well, right?
You got to be out of your mind. I mean, to be in that life, you're going to jail. You're going down one way or the other at one point in time. Especially, it was too late for me. I became too high profile. Yeah. Once you got that bullseye on your back, you got that target, they'll never let you go. They got all the time, all the money, all the resources. So they're going to get you. And when they do get you, it's over. I mean, that's it.
That's it. What do you enjoy most about your life now? That's treachery free. That's your new life is what you have. A wife, you have kids, you have.
I got a wife that I'm very much in love with. 34 years here. We live out in Southern Cal. I got 7 great kids. You know.
Oh shit! I can collab with this guy now. Except he hates socialism, so I love Sunny Cal, dude.
free from my first marriage, but they all love each other, which is great. Look, I live a good lifestyle. I mean, I'm speaking all over the world, having a
We both have the
positive
same fucking take over here. We both love Sunny Cal. Come on.
impact on people, being a source of encouragement and hope, which is extremely gratifying. I really learned in my life, it really is better to give than receive. You get a better feeling out of it, and what else can you give me? I've gotten everything just about my life, but it motivates me, keeps me going. I'm very fortunate. I am a person of faith, and my faith has played a major role, because without God in my life, I don't think I'd be sitting here now. I mean, I know that for a fact. So, and things, I've had my challenges.
Not even true, brother. If the God was... If God... Well, what about the fucking God on the cod, all right? The cod that you burned, you forgot about that guy.
And my struggles, don't get me wrong. And, I didn't get a lobotomy when I became a person of faith. I still have tendencies where I could jump back into mob life for a second, but I try not to. And I got the right people around me, keep me accountable. So, it's all working out.
All right, we're going to do fucking live stream fails. But before we do, apparently